Hey, welcome to video number 2 on CrossFit for the rest of us. So, we're in the process of designing this Gatsby site, and today we're going to focus on a couple things. Number one, we're going to be making some changes and wanted to show you kind of what my workflow is for saving this. I'm going to use Github, and I'll show you how to create a new repository, walk you through the steps there, and then show you kind of how to make sure you're saving your changes and making updates in a sustainable, maintainable way. And we're going to use we've used Gatsby image out of the box. We're going to design this using Gatsby background image, and start to get away from this out of the box styling. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, I've got my GitHub here. I've got some projects, and if you've got it full screen, you should see this little plus. If I click there and hit new repository, I'm going to give it a name here. So I'll say CrossFit for the rest. You can call it whatever you want. The description is optional. You can make it public or private. And I'm going to opt not to create it with a README for now. You can add one if you want to add a description, that sort of thing, but you can always do this later on as well. So I'll hit create repository. And so now I've got these SSH keys set up on my computer, or on the computers that I use for working at home. If you don't have that set up yet, then make sure you have HTTPS selected, and you'll use this as the remote add origin URL. If you do have SSH set up right now, then you can have SSH selected. So I'm just going to follow these directions. I'll say git init, making sure that I'm in the correct directory, which I am. Then I'm going to do git status just to see where I'm at. Okay, so I have a few things that have been modified and then a few things that have been untracked. So I'm going to do git add and then a dot to add everything that has not yet been tracked. Now if I run git status again, you can see all of these changes are ready to be committed. So everything is staged. So I've instead of doing git add readme, I just did git add dot to add all of the files that I've added to this project. Then I'll do git commit -m for message, and then quotes, and I'll do first commit. All right, so now everything is ready to be pushed up from my local machine onto GitHub. So I'm going to copy this whole thing, and remember, if I have SSH, if you don't have SSH keys set up, then just click HTTPS and copy this line. You'll notice that it switches. So I've this one I'm going to copy, paste it into my terminal, and hit enter. And then I'm just going to use that last line, git push -u origin master. Okay, so it should be good. I can check now by refreshing this page. And awesome. So now I've got all of this stuff for me. So notice that I didn't have a README initialized in the repo, but with Gatsby, it comes with one already loaded up. So you can edit that as you wish, or you can just leave it as it is. So what I'm going to do now is, since I'm making a new feature, this is just a good habit to get into, is we're gonna do this on a branch. So the way that this works is, I've got all of this code, and say I want to do some experimenting. If I edit all of this directly and then I make some like huge mistake, then it might be kind of a pain to try and like Control Z, like undo all of the changes and keep track of everything. So what I can do instead is I can create a branch. And basically what that does is it creates a copy, and you can do whatever you want to that copy without affecting this code. And then if everything comes out the way that you want it, you can create what's called a pull request, and you can merge those two project folders together, and you can bring that branch onto your master branch, and everything will flow together normally. So this is a pretty common workflow, like at work on the job, or if you're doing open source, that sort of thing. So I thought it'd be valuable to show you how to do that. So before we dive into that, we're going to use something called gatsby-background-image. Okay, so these are the docs for it. So to switch to a new branch, I am going to do git checkout -b. So this is the process of creating a new branch, and I'm going to call it whatever my feature is. So I'm going to say banner. And notice that it says switch to a new branch banner, and then down here we have banner. So I'm going to close out all this stuff. And now we're on something where if we change it and we push everything, it's not going to affect the master branch. All right, so let's go ahead and install Gatsby background image. Looking at the docs, if we do, so this is this is yarn. We have a yarn lock. So let's do, and whatever you set it up with, if you did npm, that's fine. If you did yarn, do yarn. So yarn add Gatsby background image. It'll take a second to install. And it also says, so depending on the Gatsby starter that you used, if you followed along with me, you should already have Gatsby Transformer Sharp and Gatsby plugin Sharp. Let's double check though in the package.json. So Gatsby Transformer Sharp is already installed, and Gatsby plugin Sharp is already installed. And now we have Gatsby background image there as well. So that's fine. So the next step is in our Gatsby config to double check to make sure that Gatsby Transformer Sharp and plugin Sharp are both there. Great. And then we should already have this set up as well. Gatsby source file system, making sure that we've got the path to the images set correctly. So this should be good to go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of editing on this index page. So I'm actually going to go ahead and clear all of this stuff out and save it. And make sure I run Gatsby develop, so it's going to actually run there. Cool, so now it's just got my banner, and remember we have that because of that layout component. Okay, so if you've ever used Gatsby image, using Gatsby background image is pretty much the same. What we're going to do here is we're gonna put in a background image that I've got. So in my images folder, I've got this banner image that we're gonna use. You can download whatever image that you want. So at the top, we are going to import Gatsby background image. So you can see that in the docs here. Background image. So I'm just going to copy that line and put it at the top. And then we also need something called use static query. So that's imported from Gatsby. Since we already have link here, we're not using link right now. So you can delete it if you want to for now, or you can just leave it. But we're going to import use static query. So then what we're going to do is inside of this index page, we actually need to touch this up just a little bit. So right now, it's got the parentheses, which is an implicit return. But since we're going to be using some other stuff and making a query to our images folder, we actually need to explicitly return our component here. So what we're going to do is get rid of, I just cut that. I'm going to get rid of these parentheses and do curly braces, and then return with parentheses, and then paste this back in. And so notice nothing changed here, but the reason we did this is because we need a spot for our data. So we'll do const data equals use static query. Then we'll do GraphQL. Oops. GraphQL, which we need to import at the top, actually. So GraphQL is also from Gatsby. So GraphQL, and then whenever you're making a GraphQL call, you put that in between backticks. So we'll do our query, and we'll say file relative path, and then inside curly braces there we'll do equals, and then the name of the file, which is banner.png, and then after the parentheses, child image sharp. We'll do fluid, so it takes up the all of the space of the parent container, and then we'll do Gatsby image sharp fluid. Okay, so we have that there. And then next, what we want to do if we're following along with the documentation is we want to set our background image around our content. So let's open up a background image. We'll give it a tag of header. We don't need a class name yet. We can do fluid equals data dot file dot child image sharp dot fluid. So where am I getting this? It's just it's similar to object dot notation, where I'm doing data dot file dot child image sharp dot fluid. So with Gatsby image and Gatsby background image, instead of having an src like you have with images in HTML, you have fluid or fixed. And since we're using fluid here, it asks for that fluid prop. And then let's go ahead and save that and see how we're looking for now. Okay, so this sometimes happens if you refresh. Okay, so we're not getting anything yet, but let's take a look here and open up this div, and there's our header. There's a div inside of it, in H1. So that's the, okay, so right now we're looking at, this was the navigation header. If we look at the div below it, you can see that it is showing up. So Gatsby background image. There's no style or height or width or anything, so let's go ahead and take care of that. Let's go ahead and put this in line for now. We'll do height, and we'll do 50 VH and see what we get there. Okay, cool. So this is inline styling, just to show you what's happening here. We've got the banner image showing up. We gave it some height, and now it's actually showing up. So you don't even actually need anything in between. So we could actually make this a self-closing tag. And so notice that there's this huge space here. So let's take a look there and see what we can do about that. So taking a look around, let's look at this div. So this header has some margin bottom. So let's go ahead and take a look at our header component. And that is coming in from inline styling, so we can get rid of that. And so that bumps it up a little bit. And then let's see. Okay, so this div is also having some margin of 96 pixels. So that came, I believe, from our layout. So let's look at our layout. And we did have the child container set as a with a margin top of 97 pixels. So let's see. Let's just comment that out for a second and see what happens. All right, so that bumps it to the top. And now we're getting that that nice, like, sitting close to the top. I don't love how this this top banner is looking for now, though. So let's see what it looks like if we remove that. So in our layout, let's just comment out this header. Cool. So now it's sitting right at the top. We have that background image taking up the full width. Everything looks to be working as we wanted it to work. And so now this branch is, I think, ready to be merged with master. So let's go ahead and shut this down. I'm going to Control C. I'm going to do git status to see where we're at. So we just modified things. We haven't added anything. So what we can do here is git commit -am, and we'll do add background image to banner section. Now if I run git push here, it's going to give me some directions. So the current branch banner has no upstream branch. GitHub or Git is really nice here. It gives you exactly what you need. So I'm just going to copy this git push and paste it. Okay, so it looks like everything worked. Let's see what's going on our repo. So I didn't even refresh this, but less than a minute ago, we have this banner here. And we have this button that says compare and pull request. So let's go ahead and click on that. It says able to merge. Perfect. So I'm comparing banner with master. And so if I create a pull request, what it's going to do is say, hey, I want this banner section, all the changes that I made, to be merged with the master project. It seems kind of weird when you're doing it on a project that you're working on yourself, but it's just a good way to make sure that you're not making any like huge breaking changes, because you know, what I could do is like, all right, that didn't work, and then just totally scrap that branch and not have to worry about it impacting my master. So if I click create pull request, branch has no conflicts. Awesome. So I can just merge this. So what I'm doing actually is playing both roles, the person that is creating the pull request and the person that is accepting. So this is actually the process. The last screen is what you would do, for example, if you're working on a team or working on an open source project where you create your pull request and then you send it off, and then whoever is maintaining that project will see this and then can merge it. But since it's our own project that we're doing, you actually play both roles. So I'll merge this pull request and then confirm the merge. The pull request was successfully merged and closed, so I can actually delete this branch. And so now if I go back to my code, I can see add background image to banner section. Awesome. So now we'll do a little cleanup on this end. So I'm still on my banner branch. I'm going to do git checkout master. And notice down here, it's got that master. Let's take a look if we Gatsby develop without doing anything. So we just switched back to the master. If I refresh, it still looks the same. The reason is, even though the merges have taken place on the repo, remotely on my local machine, it doesn't have those changes. So here's how we take care of that. If I'm on my master branch, I'm going to run git pull. It pulls everything down. And now if I run gatsby develop, and wait for it to load and build everything up. Cool. And now everything is reflected just like it was on that other branch. So again, this process seems a little weird when you're working on a project on your own, but it's still a pretty good practice. I've definitely run into issues where I've made a bunch of edits on master and then like, oh man, none of this works. And I had a feature that was working that I like saved and then like made some more changes without committing and have run into some real headaches trying to work my way back. So this is definitely a good practice to get into. And then obviously, especially if you're working on a team or an open source project. So I'm going to control C out of this. And then what we can do is actually do a little cleanup here. If I do git branch, I can see that we've got banner and master. So if I do git branch -d banner, that actually deletes the banner branch. So if I do git branch again, I can see that only master is there. You don't have to do that, but if you get into an issue where you have a ton of branches and you want to do some cleanup, or maybe you like the name banner and you want to like use it again down the road, like that's a good way to kind of keep things nice and tidy. So went over some Git processes and some workflow sort of practices there. And then also how to use gatsby-background-image, similar to the way that you'd use Gatsby image. So after this, the next chunk is starting to get some content going and do a little bit more styling with styled components. So thanks for hanging out in this video, and I'll be back with another one. So hope you come back for it.